Now, through the eyes of us all on our day-to-day lives, most of the time we look at anger purely on just its raw face value, which, let's be honest, is not exactly what you'd call admirable or desirable. Anger is arguably one of the most, if not the most, despicable and disconcerting emotions to be expressed in any social situation. Its viscerally primal and unhinged nature tend to be strongly associated with a high degree of immaturity, detriment of confidence, and a severe lack of moral outlook or ethical mannerisms. So naturally, we instinctively want to get rid of, or at the very least, place ourselves at a very far distance away from this rather deranged and demented quality within our psyche. However, the problem with doing so is that we are inadvertently running away from its source, and ironically, instead of dimming down the flame of the anger or putting it out completely, which what we initially intended to do through distancing ourselves from it, we let it sit still and burn just as much, just like the way we left it, waiting for the very sensitively subtle moment it will be further ignited into a much larger blaze with the tiniest poke of the wrong provocations. Anger is undoubtedly a very strong emotion. When you are consumed by it, there is an unwavering feeling of profoundly boundless vitality and energy that you don't normally feel when you are in a neutral state of mind. However, because this energy is so potent, most of the time we have no comprehension of how to contain it and prevent it from doing more harm than good. Why? Because we have no idea of its source, since we all are desperately trying to run away from it. In order for you to learn to control your anger, you must have a thorough understanding of its source, of which when you do, you can vividly find out where and how to redirect its energy and vitality. You must redirect all your focus and energy to its source so that you can enter an introspective and investigative state to understand the causality of why you're feeling such a way, so that you won't involuntarily dissipate it through a temporary cathartic release that leads to long-term blaming and bitterness, or worse, an unhinged mental breakdown that leads to violence. All because you refuse to redirect your anger to its original place of birth and simply let its wild energy, which is extremely desperate for a focus, run rampant. Like I said in the last video, we all are looking for answers, and the answer of why you are angry because of a certain provocation is almost always associated within your own specific psychological susceptibility, and not anything or anyone outside of it. If you have absolutely no thought or any form of comprehensible explanation behind your anger, it leads to nowhere, and that is why it becomes destructive, because there is no focus and no direction. In contrary to what most people think, anger is simply an independently unique prescribed response or reaction of an individual that is generated by that individual's own specific mental prompt. In other words, whatever or whoever you think is causing you to be angry, it's not particularly what that thing or that person say or did that make you angry. It's rather your own mental susceptibility that reacts violently towards a certain circumstantial catalyst that makes you angry. Basically, what anyone or anything says or do to you are merely the catalyst that is looking to generate an aggressive reaction with the right reactant. And that reactant is your own psychological and autonomic sensitivity towards a particular catalyst. I.e., your specific reactant is the source of your anger that you must focus on and redirect its energy back towards. Now, this reactant or psychological sensitivity or susceptibility can be a lot of things. It can be your own pet peeves, an involuntary reaction towards an irrebuttable injustice, or a natural born or conditioned irritation. But most of the time, the most significantly intense sense and feeling of anger comes from, you guessed it, our own personal unresolved insecurities. Now, why these insecurities make us passionately angry is because we are trying to hide it from everyone, even from ourselves. And when someone or something provokes it through either an intentional or unintentional behavior, those provocations simply reveals or reminds us what we are desperately trying to hide, run away, reject, or deny about ourselves, which is always something that we personally feel lacking in that we also consider as very important. Now, why I constantly stress out the importance of redirecting your anger to its source is so that you can focus on improving yourself to eventually prove them wrong, rather than focus on beating them into a pulp, then embarrassing yourself afterwards and even losing much more than just your precious time and energy. For example, if someone provokes you through blatantly calling you as quote-unquote such an idiot and it gets you riled up in heat, your reactant or susceptible prompt could be that you are secretly feeling insufficient or inadequate about your own personal level of intelligence, achievements, and experience in various things that are important to you, and that it is self-evident to you that you are lacking in those areas. Now, through discovering and being honest with yourself about your own source of anger, you can then further dissect its roots and find incremental and rational solutions or directions to eventually fix or compensate your particular insecurities, such as overcoming your fear in learning or failure through simply taking more risks, sacrificing bad behaviors, or procrastinating less, while also avoiding blaming others for your personal discrepancies, and also utilizing that feeling of long-held frustration and endless insufferable disappointment in the back of your mind as inextinguishable fuel to go through your tasks, bring a sense of life and passion to your work, and transform yourself into someone that you can actually be proud of. Because now, that anger has a focus, and it is being carefully restrained and appropriately channeled towards the right things that are constructively beneficial to you and your personal circumstances. Thank you for watching.